Hi guys, I hope you're doing great. Welcome to my channel. Here we are with another episode of C# tutorial. In this episode, we are going to learn some other concepts of C#, like variable scope, this keyword, and static keyword, like static variable and static function. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, don't forget to subscribe it. And if you enjoyed the video and find it useful, don't forget to like it. Let's begin. Actually, there are three main levels of scope. If a variable has a class scope, it means that it is accessible across an entire class. I'll show you what variables has this level of scope. And the second level, if a variable has a method scope, it means that it is accessible across an entire single method. That specific method that that variable is defined in, okay? And you cannot actually use that variable in other methods because it is not defined there. And the last level of scope is those variables that has block scope, or in another word, inner block scope, okay? And they're accessible in just that block. For example, when we use for loop, we define an integer to act as a counter, and that counter is actually defined in that block, that for block, and you cannot access to that variable anywhere other than that block. I'll show you with examples what I mean by these level of scope. Okay, here I defined a class. I taught you how to create a class in last session. If you don't know how to create a class, I highly recommend you to watch my previous episode. Now this class has two attributes, and these are name and ID, and I can use these variables wherever I want inside this class. Okay, for example, as you see here, I defined a function and I use name, which is my attribute, inside this function. Okay, and there's no problem, there is no error, and this program is working. Or here this is a constructor, and I defined a variable here. This is my variable, which is defined inside this function, and it is accessible in just this function. Okay, and if I, for example, here I write underline a name, you see it is not defined and we have an error here. Okay, as you see, the name underline name does not exist in the current context. So, but if I delete this underline and I write just name, it is, as you see here, this is person.name, so it is accessible here. So this variable underline name has a method scope, but this one has class scope. And what about block scope? Okay, here I define a loop. This is my loop, this is for loop, and I define an integer I, and I use that integer inside this for here. Okay, I use it inside this for block. If I write I here, and okay, here we have an error. It says the I could not be found. Okay, so because I is just defined inside this block and has a block scope. Okay, what is this? This is a reference to current instance that a method or a constructor is running in, and actually it is the easy way to reach up into the class scope. Okay, here we have an example. If you see right here in this example, we have a constructor, and inside the constructor we have two variables, title and author. Both of them has a method scope, In this class, in this book class, we have a title which is the attribute of the class. We also have another variable which is inside this constructor and has method scope. So if I write title, how does it define? Is it actually considered as the title which is the attribute of the class, or a title which is the variable of this constructor? Well, if I write title, it considers it as the variable which is defined inside that method. So if I want to access to the title which is the attribute of my class, I have to use this keyword. Okay, as you see here, I use this dot title, which refers to the title which is the attribute of the class. But here, title without any keyword means the title which is defined right here. It is the same for author. Let me show you by writing some codes. Well, for example, in this constructor, I define underline name and underline ID. If I remove this underline, okay, here you see we have an error, and okay, I delete underlines. So here it says assignment made to same variable. Did you mean to assign something else? So actually it is confused now why I'm assigning two names together. So I just need to use this here, this dot name, okay, and here this dot ID. And if I double click on name, you see it is showing that this name is considered. This name, and this name are the same. And if I double click on this one, it shows that this name is actually considered. So to conclude, when you want to use the attributes of a class inside the class, and you want to separate that attribute to another variable which has the same name, you have to use this keyword. Okay, it actually changes the priority. When I just write here, when I write name, okay, this name is actually the name which is inside the method and has a method scope, has priority over other variables. And if I want to change the priority, I have to use this dot that variable. Okay, what is static keyword? If something is marked static, it means that that thing belongs to the class. Okay, it doesn't actually belong to the instance of the class. And that thing can be variable, function, or even a class. And now we want to actually learn about variable, static variable, and static function. Well, when I use static variable, that variable belongs to the class. And for example, if I make some instance from that class, that variable does not change. And that is the same for all of that instances. And when I want to access to that variable, I have to use the name of the class, not the name of the objects that I created. And for the method, it is also like that. If a method is static, then it can be accessed through the class name directly. Okay, it doesn't need to use any instance of the class. Okay, and it belongs to the whole class. I'll show you by example. Okay, here I have a variable which is static and it is public. Okay, and I assign 10 into this variable, and I also have a function. Okay, and I want to run this program to see how we can actually work with this. Okay, I go to the program, and here I just created an array of a class, and it has 3 members. Okay, and we have 3 person, and I here just get the name of these persons. Let me just run the program, and here we see the program is working, and the name of these 3 persons are here. Okay, now I want to see how we can deal with that static function and variable. In order to access to that variable and function, I have to just use the name of the class. Just let's write console dot write line, and here I write person dot, and here you see I can use person number, and I write it, and let's run the program, and here 10 is written here. And now I want to comment these lines, and I don't want to actually have any object from the class, and I want to show you that in this condition also this variable is shown. You see 10 is written regardless of any object. And I also can use the method console dot write line person dot get number. Okay, this is the function, and if I start the program, you see 10 is written. The first 10 is because of this line, and the second one is because of this line. They both show the same amount. This one shows 10 because it is public, and I can change it to private. If I change it to private, then this line cannot actually be executed because phone number is not accessible because it is private now. But this one is accessible because it is public. And if I start the program, you see 10 is right here. There are various uses of this static keyword, and we can see more about it in later episodes. Well, this is the end of this session. I hope it was useful, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, don't forget to subscribe it, and if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it. Bye for now.